Okay, dear all, this is my second recording, but I have problems with the first one. So I'm sending you. I'm glad that you are sending me this first draft. I was a bit worried, but well, I kept sending messages, but now this is what I find. Okay, guys. Initially, I have to tell you that the topic is very, very interesting. The combination of self-assessment, oral production and technology are actually the difference, what makes this project different. So self-assessment is a wonderful, let's say, strategy to actually help students become more autonomous. So I think that this project has a wonderful future. What I see in these 4 pages is that still we are closer. We are, in this moment, we know where to go, what to do, but too much work to be done. So I expected, and that's why I sent you the email, that I thought that initially the document was going to be probably 40 pages long or something like that. But when I found only these 4, I'm getting a little bit worried, and I will tell you later. Introduction, I didn't read the introduction because generally this is the last part that we write once we have the complete document. But anyway, it's a good draft. In the statement of the problem, this section is still incomplete since we need the diagnosis or the needs analysis to actually know who the population is, to identify what exactly in speaking we are going to be checking in students, and to see the identification of the 3 schools. Once we see the checklist, you will find more issues to consider. As a draft is okay, but for the last version of the document, these sections have to be connected, have to be linked. Regarding the research question, let's say that can, how, and what are some possible ways to start with the research question. What we need to make is to make them more specific and narrow. So initially you need to identify, when you say speaking proficiency, what exactly speaking proficiency is. Are you talking about these 2 issues, grammatical range, and at the same time you are talking about accuracy? The question is, what is grammatical range and what is accuracy for the paper, right? When you are talking about systematic and methodological analysis, the big question is, what is it for the paper? What is it for the project? When you're talking about this, is what is that self-assessment? What will be the protocol that you will follow? Still, I don't find that information. This issue regarding the teacher orientation, that's not needed, since we know that you are the teachers and that you will implement a strategy to know how it works. Depending on how specific your question becomes, the objectives might vary. My suggestion here is try to identify for these verbs that can actually give us evidence and can show that we're going to find information to make the research evident. It seems that this section was just taken out of nothing. Probably you just took a piece from here and there. So this section requires more study, and the section that is missing is the section about the theoretical framework. I think that probably you have it in a different document, but probably this is going to be one of the theoretical parts that will help us organize the research question and the objectives, and of course the instruments, since everything has to be linked and connected. The context still is too general, so that's why we need the needs analysis in order to know the number of students, the names of the schools, the populations, the levels your students are taking this course, and of course we need to have a defined profile of teachers and schools to write this. Again, this section is taken just because probably you read it and you said, okay, this is what we need, but there is not like a probably conscious thought about this. You are talking about a diagnostic test, a diagnostic exam. It's very important that we actually include all the information, the description of this instrument and the results of this instrument. That is going to be part of this needs analysis, is going to be part of the introduction, because at a certain point we will talk about that. And of course, in the, let's say in the last part, when we analyze data, we will be able to contrast this information. So when you talk about preliminary English PET task 1, or one of the tasks, it's important to see what that task is. I don't see the appendix, so probably you have it in a new document. When you talk about journals, class observation, and even the oral production checklist, we have to organize them in the way that they correspond to the research question. If you're talking about grammar accuracy, so we have to include those, what is accuracy for us, and it has to be included in the 3 instruments. When you are talking about assessment, there must be something about assessment. So everything since the title, from the research question, the objectives, the theoretical framework, and the instruments, they speak about the same topics. And for you, the same topics are speaking performance, that needs to be defined, assessment, that needs to be defined, and the use of technology, in this case, videos, needs to be defined. Okay? Your references are still too poor, so remember that we need like a number of 50, 60 references to actually be included. I want right now to show you one of the projects that I want you to see as a model, because it's one that I directed, and this is the way that I want your paper to be written. So the format can be, you can start copying the format, so we can have these sections already done. The abstract will be something that you write at the end when everything is done. We need to start having a table of contents so you can see the sections and the elements that you need. Table of figures, table of contents, a list of abbreviations, because at a certain point you will be creating certain abbreviations. As I'm telling you, the introduction will be written little by little, but something that you have to consider is like the national policies, like the institutional policies, so they will give us a lot of more let's say support to the research. As you can see, support is what we need. Support is needed. Here in this part, we can see that as part of the introduction, as part of the test, we have the section objectives and the section research question. In a theoretical framework, based on the question and the title of this project, we have the key constructs: collaborative learning, self-directed learning, motivation. You have to do exactly the same based on the final research questions that you do. And of course, you have to say something like, for the purpose of this study, blah. So this study is using the following definition based on. Accordingly, in this study, a team is defined. So that's the same issue. What is a speaking performance, but what is going to be speaking performance in your paper? Again, this is a long section. I hope that you are working on that, and I hope that I can soon see it. What else do I have? The research design. It all depends on what you want, the objectives, etc. But anyway, what we have to do is, for example, start thinking and defining the context, the number of schools, the names of schools. We need to identify the profile of the participants, so there must be a table similar to these ones that you produce. Your role, the role that you will be having based on theory, is not because you think that it is going to be done. And the description of the instruments and the procedures. So how do you expect that you will implement, and what will you be doing first, then after that, and how you will be applying information. The pedagogical is time, so there is no more time, so it's time that you start thinking about the pedagogical intervention, and I would like to see the lesson plans that you will be applying. I guess that you will have different populations, but there must be a commonality in the task. Any let's say protocol that you will follow to develop in the class. I would like to see that so I can give you my feedback and my approval. And the rest is going to be part of the strategy that you will implement. As you see, we will need a lot of numbers because you're talking about that a mixed approach. We need a lot of information from students. Start tabulating whatever you have in a very organized way. And as you can see, references, 60 are the ones that we are requesting. So in this moment, probably you have to, and the plan is that whatever you include here in the reference is because it's in the text. Okay. In the instruments, again, since this project is about collaborative learning, it has sections: collaborative learning, autonomy, motivation. Same with you. So you will have to have a section regarding English, regarding self-assessment, and maybe regarding the use of this video as a way to help them to self-assess. Same thing will happen with your research protocol, and same thing will happen with the interview protocol or the other instruments that you will be using. It's important that you actually set the timeline. I have prepared like a draft for you. Let me see where it is, so I can actually show it to you. In the checklist, what I want you to see is my general feedback and the instrument that I will be using to give you feedback. So the plan is that you will have this little document full of feedback. I want you to pay attention to this. This document is familiar for you and you know how it works. And I want you to go to this. This is what we have to do, all depending on the date that you want to graduate. So for this purpose, it's very important that you go to the website of the university and you go to this link so you can actually see the requirements for graduation. So for the moment, as you can see, it's a long way to go, but since we are 4 researchers, I think that is the time to start splitting work individually. So this is a suggested teamwork, so we can speed up a little bit the process. So I suggest that Martin and Gustavo work on the theoretical framework and the letter of consent. This part is a very important one in the project. Meanwhile, Luis and Johnny will work in the needs analysis, tuning the research question, and the section of research design and instruments. If you want to rush, the plan is that we have this information by March the 5th, so I can give you feedback and we can work. I hope that this video actually helps you, and with my comments in the paper, you can actually continue working, okay?